So Hamas has offered some kind of a deal to Israel. We'll talk about specifically what we know that is there, at least from some of the reports. And now the ball is apparently in Israel's court, meaning do they want to accept it or not? Now, this deal is what has been tagged as a partial deal, meaning a deal that doesn't necessitate or doesn't guarantee the release of all living hostages or even of all hostages, uh, including the bodies of dead hostages. Um, so this is what we'll discuss today. I was trying to find a different topic to talk, not talk about it because there's so many times we have talked about this potential ceasefire deal, but there's nothing else really going on. Now you have the Netanyahu going after the Australian Prime Minister and a few more things like that, but we've covered Australia a lot as well, more than they deserve. So we'll try to cover this again and what we might see in the upcoming future, since Israel is not giving a response to the ceasefire deal. They might give it in the following days because on the face of it, Israel is rejecting this deal, although there is, I think, a report from two government insiders that Israel might be considering this. So we do have comments, of course, from the some parts of the Netanyahu's cabinet saying, "No, don't accept this deal. You have no mandate to accept this deal." So we'll talk about that as well. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is James Valiant, and James, I mean, when I see stuff like this, it reminds me of one game, funnily enough, where at some point you like find these like bad guys, and you have two choices to do with them, and the two choices are like deal with them or deal with them. And this is exactly what I think should happen here. No deal with Hamas, but let's deal with Hamas.
Yes. You're becoming a master of English idioms. Deal with. I love that. Yeah, I'd tell you what my response would be to Hamas's offer. Go forth with your occupation of Gaza City. Occupy just as many Palestinian bodies as you can occupy, Mr. Netanyahu. That would be the response. Because let's face it, it's only his plan to occupy Gaza City that I think has even gotten Hamas to say, "Oh no, 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 okay, where was that last deal where we released 10 hostages and then 10 more hostages? Well, we're now open to that deal." Okay, it is a sheer fear of the military consequences that has gotten Hamas even to say that much. Now, of course, any partial deal would be truly evil. Would be truly evil. Look, listeners of our podcast know by now that we don't think that negotiation with Hamas at all is a legitimate thing. But to the extent that you get anything from Hamas, it's because of military pressure. I mean, it's that simple. And you're seeing just a play out here in classic fashion under the threat of an occupation of Gaza City. Hamas is now much more willing, and the Qatarian and Egyptians are saying, wait a minute, we have to have something to work with here. But wait a minute, you're only going to release half of the living hostages. You expect me to sign up to such a deal? No, that's not how it works. Hostage taking is not going to be rewarded, even partially. And if you reward hostage, and even just this kind of a partial deal, a permanent peace and a permanent security arrangement, and Israel, you stay out. Okay, you can be close. And notice how the Hamas is compromising on that too. And they're saying, okay, you can have security arrangements maybe near the corridors and near our borders. Okay, see, amazing how much more reasonable they become when you put the gun to them. Okay, that indicates their weakness. It does not give you a green light to do the deal. And you say, let's take the 10 now. No, well, wait a minute here. We might do better if we go forth and occupy Gaza City. In fact, the more aggressive Netanyahu becomes, in a defensive war, mind you, he's acting in totally reasonable self-defense since October 7th, at least, if not decades earlier, reasonable self-defense. Still, it would be a terrible moral compromise to agree to 10 now and maybe 10 later, because now you're peddling in human flesh in exactly a way that would even partially reward Hamas for hostage taking at all. hostage taking cannot pay. And when you make a deal, if you were to even consider, Ben Gvir, even if you were to consider such a thing, you're rewarding it and making sure that it happens again. No. But I would observe, and I think it's worth observing, how much more accommodating Hamas becomes in their negotiating stance when they're faced with a real threat, the real threat of total occupation of Gaza City, where most Palestinians in Gaza live. So it is, these people understand one language, force. They do. And when you cannot rationally persuade someone, when peace is not the norm and you've set aside force altogether. But you see, that's what they're saying with a partial deal. 10 of the living hostages, not all of the living hostages, they're using force. That's still a gun pointed to 10 presumably living people's heads that they insist on maintaining. No, we're not going to negotiate with you at all. You got guns to the heads of still 10 more people, even if you were to release 10 tomorrow. You don't negotiate when someone's got a gun pointed at your head. That is precisely when you cannot negotiate with them. You cannot under those circumstances. It is immoral and it is impractical for the same reason. It is counterproductive to everything you want. If you want all the hostages out, go forth and occupy Gaza City. That looks to me at this point like your only chance of getting all 20 of the hostages out. Now, we've said many times on the show again that we cannot let the fate of the hostages be, in effect, hold hostage any correct response that Israel would have. That's true too. But even insofar as you want the hostages released, you can't say, okay, well, 10 hostages now, 10 hostages later. Okay, your security forces can be a lot closer. Okay, you're already caving into a threat of force. You're already negotiating. Ayn Rand had the beautiful example of when the burglar breaks into your house, you don't negotiate over the silver spoons, right? Because they're going to come back next week and demand the rest. You've caved in on principle, and once you've caved in on that principle, it's okay. Next time we take hostages, we'll make sure to take a bunch of hostages so that we can really use them as bargaining chips. No, you cannot allow them to be used as bargaining chips at all. Even 10 now, 10 later. That is a complete moral compromise. So, and the fact that you've even gotten okay, we'll release 10 now and then 10 later is the result of the military pressure that they're under right now. The fact is that Hamas is scared. They wouldn't even be coming this close to an offer, or say Egypt and Qatar wouldn't be saying, hey, look, we got to have something to work with here. We're close to a deal. They're coming close to what Witkoff, the American negotiator, was offering. And since they're so close to what Witkoff, the negotiator, was offering, boy, you should come to the negotiating table. No, no, no.
We have a few things that I want to comment on, but first, something important to mention is even when we talk about sort of like Hamas feels the pressure or anything like that, and I think Netanyahu has said we can see clearly that Hamas is under immense pressure. This is what Hamas under pressure means. We'll give you 1 to 15 ratio. You'll get 10 hostages and we'll get 150 terrorists back. So even this like under pressure still means Hamas is getting absolutely much more because again, they don't put any value on human life and they understand that Israel and also that Israelis are pushing Israel itself towards worth of a deal. If you let the other side know, and this is like basic negotiation, right? If you say, no, I needed that back, then they know they can put a much bigger price on it. And that's really crude way of saying it, since when I'm talking about the price, we are talking about human lives that are absolutely innocent. And I mean the Israeli side, the Palestinian side, the Palestinian prisoners are the guilty ones.
Think of it. The very idea of releasing the truly guilty people, Palestinians under arrest by the Israelis. No. When we're negotiating, we're not negotiating. I mean, can you imagine? First, you say, well, that's what happens. The minute you start saying, well, we're willing to negotiate with them, you've already lost the whole case. Because then what are they? What you got to give them something. What are we giving them? Well, we're giving them a bunch more, many times more guilty Palestinians in exchange for what? The remaining surviving innocent civilian Israeli hostages? That is morally bankrupt. That is morally bankrupt. Yeah. So even the idea of negotiating on these terms is frankly despicable and disgusting. Those Palestinians you release, think of it. The areas you leave in Gaza, the aid you're going to send into Gaza, all of that stuff means the perpetuation of the problem. So no, you don't negotiate at all because you're perpetuating the problem to the extent you negotiate at all. But can you imagine if you, even if you do enter the negotiation saying, okay, we'll release many times more of your people who are really arrested for doing bad stuff, if you guys release a small few, many fewer people who are totally innocent civilians taken on October 7th. It's disgusting on the face of it. And but like I say, if they're willing to get a little more reasonable because of the threat of occupation, to that extent, I agree with Netanyahu in terms of what you're seeing. I have to believe that Hamas is under increasing pressure. I wouldn't even think of taking the deal, but let's see if they can come up to 20.
But of course, they would never go to 20. It's always the half. I'm telling you, even if there is one living hostage in Gaza, they'll say, okay, we'll give you the hostage, but he's gonna come in like a locked box and we'll only give you the key at the end of that ceasefire. They will always do that because the goal isn't to come out to some sort of a peace deal. It's not to come out to some sort of a ceasefire. It's to get out of Israel as much as possible to ensure Hamas will continue existing. We have a super chat from Jeff. Thank you so much. He says, Good morning, gentlemen." And he puts question mark at the end. Maybe he's unsure where we are. So it is morning for James and it's late, no, evening for me. We have a super chat from Bronx Guy Can Hill Road. Thank you so much. Super chat from Bull Moose. Thank you so much. He says, unrelated but funny. Apparently, Spain airdropped a bunch of spoiled food and ton of pork products to Gaza. Comedy at its finest. So I looked it up and I see some videos on X of them showing it's like super green stuff. So it does look rotten as well as pork. Although I've actually recently read up on this because I was looking into why is pork forbidden in many religions, and I remember a quote from Quran. So I just looked it up quickly. This is from Quran. He has only forbidden to you carry on blood, the flesh of the swine, and that over which any other name that Allah has been invoked. But if one is forced by necessity without willful disobedience or transgressing due limits, then there is no sin on him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. So if Palestinians are truly starving, they can eat pork because this is an extreme circumstance, and Allah is forgiving and merciful.
I say send them all kinds of cured ham and bacon, and I think that's what their diet should consist of at this point. Yeah. No, obviously it's a joke. We shouldn't even be giving them bacon. Frankly, they deserve no pork products whatever. Pork chops, ham sandwiches, or bacon. No, no. But there is something a bit amusing about the idea of, yeah, well, they want food aid, send them food that they find unclean. Yeah.
Well, it's pain sending, so so much about that. We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And yeah, so something else to bring up is I think also Qatar has commented on this, and I'm trying to find exactly. Yeah, Qatari official has said that this Hamas deal is almost the same as Witkov's deal.
Right.
which I didn't find surprising. I found it revealing because they do indeed have the same overlord, although I'm not sure if I would call necessarily Qatar the Hamas overlord, but I would definitely say it when it comes to Witkoff. People can look up earlier episodes we did on Witkoff because he definitely uh, at the very least, let's say, just has a conflict of interest when it comes to dealing with negotiations by dealing with Qatar, if he's supposedly supposed to be there on American interest or on sort of like Israeli interest by proxy.
Yeah, notice that they're trying to match, though, the Trump administration's position. That tells you a great deal. We want America, at least on our side, pressuring Israel not to occupy Gaza. But the good thing is, while it does say something very bad about Witkoff and Trump, I mean, that they should have ever had made such an offer for Hamas and Qatar to actually be mimicking their offer, at least at this stage, at this moment. And you have to follow Trump moment to moment because it could change with like the wind. The direction of the wind could change at any moment. But at the moment, it appears the Trump administration is giving a very green light to the occupation of Gaza City, at least from what I can tell at this moment. But there you are. But they should reflect on the fact that Hamas is willing to go as far as what? Trump's previous offer through Witkoff. Yeah, yeah. And Witkoff obviously is in bed with the Qataris, and so is Trump, as far as I can see. So, what a wonderful ally Qatar is, aren't they? Aren't they just the most amazing ally to have in the whole wide world? The praise that the Trump administration gives that entity is disturbing. The fact that Hamas is trying to mimic Trump's last offer in their current offer is disturbing to me that Trump should ever have made the offer. Look, you've given now Hamas an offer to make. It sounds like, well, wasn't that your position as Trump and Witkoff articulated it just a few weeks ago? Right. No, but at least, as I say, Trump is giving the thumbs down to negotiating at this point and is sort of giving the green light to the occupation of Gaza City that Netanyahu seems to be planning. And Netanyahu says, well, I'll consider the offer. But yeah, we'll consider the offer. The correct reaction to that offer is to occupy Gaza City. Go forth with your plan, Mr. Netanyahu, and do not let those elements of the Israeli government that want to deal at any price um, dissuade you. Fortunately, as you point out, there are other elements in the Israeli government that are dead set against it and say you do not have a mandate for any partial agreement, for God's sakes. I mean, if an agreement would be immoral, can you imagine just how despicably immoral a partial agreement would be? I mean, my God, these people have no moral sensibility at all and therefore no long-term practical approach to it. The two, theory and practice, are one, ladies and gentlemen. The most practical long-term solution is the principled moral approach to dealing with monsters like Hamas. You don't.
We have another super chat from Bull Moose. Thank you so much. He says the company I work for at makes computer parts that are so unreliable. I call them trump cards because you never know what they'll do today. Yeah, I mean, Trump might say that Zelensky doesn't hold any cards, but the cards Trump has or is holding, yeah, no, but it's just a bunch of jokers. It
Well,
seems like for the most
if
part.
you could program your computer parts to flatter Mr. Trump and say, well, this war would never have happened but for Trump, or that war would never have happened but for Trump, and this should never have happened but for Trump. And you say, well, Trump is the greatest thing since George Washington, maybe greater than George Washington. Then maybe the computer parts would be.
And to comment on something you brought up earlier about how it truly is something different I've seen, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be part of this deal or the negotiations over the sort of like the deal afterwards, is that Hamas wants America to ensure that ceasefire happens in Gaza. And I found that really interesting because something that Hamas and Palestinians understand are that Arab states are useless. Is the Arab states do not like Palestinians, they do not care for them, and if they were gone, they would mostly accept it. I mean, just look at the sort of they might on the face of it say, yeah, 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 Israel is committing genocide and is going to wipe out the Palestinians. But let's see what's actually happening. Besides Iran, Iranian proxies like the Houthis and Hezbollah, no Arab states haven't been doing anything. Egypt, on the face of it, has been shutting down their border to not let Palestinians go out, and the surrounding states as well. But Palestinians understand that the people they have to appeal to are not the fellow Arab states,
No,
are Western nations.
that is so true. Where are the Jordanians, the Saudis, the Egyptians? No, 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 no. They're not going to help. They haven't helped. They don't particularly want Hamas in power either. But of course, they have to take the official positions that they take. But they're, in effect, as you point out, irrelevant. The only thing you're going to really press you, the only lever that can really pressure Israel is America. That's your best hope at all. I would urge Israel to, insofar as they have ever been restricted by American caution and so forth, to ignore it. But their best hope for pressure, you better believe, comes from the United States, not from any of the major Arab neighbors. No, those aren't. They have no particular interest in seeing Hamas continue, even. And that's correct. I mean, you can understand from just their own narrative, even though they are themselves not dictatorships in effect. Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they're dictatorships outright, but nonetheless, from their own warped view of their own self-interest, and that's the way I would have to put it. They're not big fans of Hamas, obviously, or any of the Iranian proxies, obviously.
Yeah, and sort of now pulling it back to sort of this kind of a deal again, it's to signal to the West, it's to push the Western nations into pressure for Israel, right? It's, oh, look, Hamas is offering a ceasefire deal. You have to take the ceasefire deal because somehow it's your fault that Hamas continues to fight this war. Somehow it's your fault that you do not want to accept this kind of ceasefire deal that doesn't mean anything, that Hamas would most likely violate, that they would use. I mean, every single ceasefire deal that there was, they used to move around hostages, they used to, for military purposes, to basically gather their strengths. So again, this deal, as every other deal, would simply benefit Hamas and not help Israel at all. The Israeli goal is simple and has been simple from the start: occupy Gaza, because I believe that's the only way Israel can ensure that no more violence. And even while there, it's going to be hard to really stop this culture, because again, this culture of Palestinianism, of complete devotion to the destruction of Israel, hasn't still been crushed because of how much, and this is the fault of Netanyahu, how much Netanyahu and the Western leaders have been trying to separate Palestinians from their government, as if Palestinians are not Hamas, as if Palestinians didn't participate on October 7, as if they didn't celebrate October 7. They did, and that needs to stop. That needs to be fought, because Hamas will come and go, but Palestinians, as they are right now with this hateful ideology, are staying.
It does not matter the organization's title. It is the Palestinian culture. It is the Palestinian ideology. It is what most Palestinians clearly adhere to that is the problem. They could reorganize some new group to be their leader, and it would have pretty much the same goals, ideological foundations, and their same genocidal hatred of Israel. So yeah, it will still pose. But look, why do you negotiate with someone with that attitude towards you at all? Why would you negotiate with the evil perpetrators of October 7th at all? Why would you negotiate? Why would you trust? Let's say, continue adding the elements here. Why would you trust them when they perpetrated October 7th and have violated every deal you've ever had with them since the emergence of Hamas? It is madness. It is sheer madness. You don't negotiate with evil. Only evil can gain. again, there's a basic principle of morality, objectivist morality in particular. But I would think that any person who has a moral perspective on things would be able to recognize that only evil can win from a negotiating process at all. Giving them anything, giving them one of your spoons, if I can continue with the analogy, just one of your spoons helps them out. I'm not going to help Hamas, not one spoon worth. But here, as you point out, they're going to be releasing many times more Palestinians from custody than innocent civilians. Perhaps 20 that remain of the surviving innocent civilians who were taken on October 7th. Does that make any moral sense whatever? No, it is a pure cave in to evil.
Well, with that, we'll continue following this sort of, I guess, waiting to see the response from Netanyahu. I hope it will be no, and we will continue into the Gaza city and all the regions in Gaza that are yet to be occupied. With that, James, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Well, frankly, if you do care about the hostages, and that shouldn't be the exclusive priority of the Israeli government, but insofar as you do care about the hostages, it seems to me that the only way we're really going to get out have any chance of getting out the 20 remaining living hostages is by going forward with an occupation of Gaza City, as planned. Where you can find me, you can find me here at Ayn Rand Center UK, where you'll find a unique perspective on today's events. Let's face it, we focus on this issue because I can think of no more evil culture, no more evil force in this world than the Islamists who oppose Israel in the world today. This is the battle for civilization, ladies and gentlemen. Another place you'll find me is in October at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference in Orange County, California. It's going to be unlike any objectivist conference that's ever been done before. I'm going to be there, and I would urge everyone to be there if there's at all a metaphysical possibility for you to be there. Please be there. It's going to be history making.
And that's objectivism.co.uk, where people can look up and find out more about this conference. We are not ending today. We still have one more show in just a couple of minutes. We'll talk about BBC. There's been another story where BBC reported something without almost checking anything, it seems like, and then trying to take it back as if, oh, sorry, we just published this to 15 million people that saw it, but we take it back. So,
Our English speaking world just heard it, but we'll take it back.
Link to that is also in the chat. So make sure to join us in just a couple of minutes. Thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and see you in a bit. Bye bye.
Be safe.